Now, the Kill or Be Killed podcast with Damian Ross, founder and master instructor of the Self-Defense Company.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming, and you're at the Kill or Be Killed podcast with Damian Ross and my special guest, Scott Bolan. Scott, how you doing today, my man?
Doing good, Damian. Good to be here. Thank you.
Great. Thanks for coming. And if you guys don't know Scott, he's been around this business of martial arts and self-defense longer than I have. He's multiple black belts. You'll Google him. You can check out his bio at scottbolan.com. You'll see guys like me. You'll see guys like Mike Gillette. I mean, again, Scott's just been around. We've had several conversations over the years. We've done some things together, and it's really a great pleasure to have him on today. And I look forward to having him on again. And what we're talking about today is something he put together called Mental Warfare Secrets. And it's I'm not gonna Scott, if you would in a few sentences describe the motivation and what the program Mental Warfare Secrets is all about.
Yeah, well, with mental warfare, what I notice is that there's so much physical training out there, but people are attacked mentally every day. And that can be through manipulators, liars, perverts, con artists. And also in a physical attack, there's a mental element too. Your attacker will size you up. He'll size you up. And there's a lot of mental interaction that was being ignored out there in the martial arts world. So I wanted to fully address that. So that's what we did with Mental Warfare Secrets. Basically gave people the skills and the how-to for how to actually do that, how that works, and how to do that and defend yourself in mental attack.
It's interesting because, again, we talk about awareness. We talk about, the size up. We talk about, getting that confidence. And a lot of that is a byproduct of training, right? I mean, you're doing it and, you're getting that confidence. But here it seems you're verbalizing it more. And you're articulating, what's happening during that process. Am I correct in that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So again, like we're somebody's, walking to their car. There's something, there's some exercise that, they would, somebody would do that they could implement, let's say, right now.
Absolutely. Yes. Oh, the thing is that you get this thing where, for example, a karate teacher, right? He'll say to the student, be aware, grasshopper. Well,
right.
Well, what does that mean? And you go, yes, sensei, I'll be aware. Well, what does that mean? So the student walks out of the dojo, walks around the corner and gets clobbered.
Right. So
what is being aware? Being aware is turning off our internal dialogue, the mental chatter, because we all do it. We're thinking constantly. We're thinking about sex. We're thinking about food. We're thinking about paying our bills. We're thinking about the elections. We're thinking about traffic. We're thinking about our relatives. I mean, just there's 1,000 thoughts a second going on in our minds. And so awareness is turning off that chatterbox. We turn off that chatterbox when we're outside of our safe zone. And let's call it the safe zone when you're kicking back in your living room. When you're at home, you're in your safe zone, you're chilling. So there's a time for that chatterbox, but the time is not when you're outside. When you're walking to your car, that's when you want to turn off that chatterbox, because then you notice, then you can pick up things in your peripheral that you wouldn't have picked up had you not turned off that chatterbox. And also, I have a statement in mental warfare, and that is your emotional response transfers control to your attacker. And so what happens is, let's say you're walking to your car and some big thug approaches you and says, hey, what's up? Can you give me $1? Whatever it might be. Yeah. And at that moment, if you become a deer in the headlights, it's like prey behavior produces predator activity, and you freeze up and they see that fear and they just respond. It's like a Pavlovian response.
That's it. You just touched. I want to focus, prey behavior creates predator activity. I think that, that's a powerful statement.
Yes.
So I just wanted to emphasize that. That's excellent. That's excellent. So
Yeah, well, no, thank you. Yeah, feel free to, because the thing is, so I had this happen to me years ago. I was in a big city, big parking lot going to my car, and all of a sudden I was just, walking along, spacing out, and all of a sudden this huge, scary-looking thug came out,
right,
and walked right, and I knew it, I felt it,
right,
I sensed it, like, that cold chill in my blood.
Oh yeah.
Your breath kind of freezes, your heart rate goes up. Oh shit, this is it.
And people do, and I call that, and it's funny, I call that the oh shit moment, when things start to happen.
Exactly.
And, it happens to you, it happens to me, it happens to everybody. Everybody, don't care.
Sure.
Especially in civilian life. It's different. It's different if you were, let's say, a soldier going on patrol, or a cop, responding to a call where that there's a specific thing going to happen. But when you are walking around every day, thinking about everyday shit, and then you let your guard down, which happens. That's why we do all this stuff. If we all, remained aware and were constant, we would be fine. But that's it. All of a sudden you get that moment and you're like, oh shit, it's on. All right. Sorry, man.
And no, it's great. And in that moment, I realized right at that moment, instead of freezing up like a deer in the headlights, I looked at him and I stepped forward with a smile. Hey, what's up? How you doing?
Right.
And the total opposite, because they're used to that Pavlovian response. They're used
Correct.
to you being afraid and freezing it up.
Correct.
You're a yuppie, you're a preppy, you're not familiar with violence. They have all this, and they're used to that response, and
Right.
it actually empowers them. It empowers them to attack you. So when I did the opposite, he actually looked startled, even though he was physically clearly larger, physically superior.
Right.
You could sense that, but I just went right, how's it going? And went right forward where, and I also wanted to step in and be closer to him, be killing close. Because I don't want to be in boxing range. I want to get nice and close where I can headbutt, where I can eye gouge, where I can knee him in the balls. I don't want to be out there where he's going to box, punch my face in. So I got close and I actually stepped forward, kind of like a shark. And the analogy of a shark is really good. You hear about guys who will punch a shark and escape successfully. I mean, what could be scarier than swimming in the ocean and, being passed by a great white? But some guys freak out and just hit the damn shark, and the shark takes off. And that was that moment. I had that feeling where I startled him, and so he kept moving, I kept moving, and afterwards, I felt like I had been passed by a great white, and the great white didn't come back. Right.
Well, and it's it's that whole act as if, and act as if you're ready to go. And in your case, you were. I mean, there's something underlying, but to speak to your point, where these guys expect a response. This is what they do. And, we always say that there's, three things, criminals don't want. They don't want to get caught. They don't want to get identified, and they don't want to get hurt. So the more resistance you offer, his risk benefit analysis goes through, and he's like, it's not worth it. Maybe if you had, a $50,000 Rolex, or, a stack of, the 10 grand hanging out of your pocket, it may have been more, he may have been more engaging. But truth be told, we always say that, we get into a slippery slope, because we're like, yeah, okay, they don't want to fight, but, again, don't bank on that happening. They're going to, there's some guys that will, and especially if they're emotionally disturbed, or they're, they're tweaking, it's, their value system is all, screwed up. One of the
and that's. Oh, go ahead.
No, keep going. I can move to the next.
Oh, I was going to say that's another thing that people do, is they assign their values on other people.
Yes,
and I talk about that in mental warfare, because we're not out to hurt anyone. We're not out to screw anyone over. We're positive people, law-abiding citizens. So we put that on. I mean, who would go and just attack and hurt someone or steal from someone?
Right.
But we couldn't even think of actually doing that. But they don't have that. They don't have the conscience that we have. And when we assume that another person wouldn't do that, that's walking on very thin ice, because they don't have our same value system. They don't have our emotional and mental faculty to discern right from wrong, but they don't have that conscience. They're more of an animal where they're just going to hurt and take what they want.
Right, and they're going to do whatever it takes and say whatever they can to get what they want. And one of the stories we like to use is the BTK killer, the bind, torture, kill serial killer. And what he would do is reason with people. And he did this to an entire family. I think one of the kids was one of the kids there, older, took judo. He was a physical kid, and he had the family at gunpoint. He's like, look, I can't. He's like, listen, I'm going to take the car. He's like, but I can't have you calling the police right away. So if you would, let me, tie you up. And he had everybody tie each other up, and then he checked them. And then once he had them all tied up, they were done. So one of the things you say is like, never believe your attacker, first off, because, the fact that they're willing to use force or violence to take something from you automatically puts them in a different category, and they don't share your value systems. And it's that projection that causes hope and will, say, well, if I just give him what he wants, he really doesn't want to. You don't know what this person wants. They're broken. So, I like the analogy to a rabid dog. You got your family pet.
Yes.
But if all of a sudden he turned rabid, well, there's something wrong with him, and we gotta put old Spike down.
Yeah, and that's right. And once he bites, that's it. Yeah.
He's done. So this is a bite, and you can't, you just have to, just start looking at things very black and white at that point. And, we start with, position and distance. How far is this guy from me? And it's funny you mentioned rolling up on somebody. I mean, there's two ways to do this. If I am in a defensive posture, let's say I'm approached and somebody comes up to me, and I back up, I establish distance, and I set my boundaries, right? But if I were to intimidate somebody, and this comes parts from my experience and my training, whatever the hell, I get as close to them as humanly possible. And I am rolling up on you, and I'm interrogating, and I'm doing what I'm asking, what I need to do. So there's to that body language, when you meet them, there's something that triggers that response where it's, okay, this person's not backing down. So, and again, like we're talking about this, but, from a street situation, but, how does this spill over to your personal life, like work or, handling your peers? I mean, there's a lot of, using these mental skills to, I guess, improve all areas of your life.
Yeah, very similar. Like Sun Tzu said, all of life is war, and it might not be physical combat, but what we're really talking about when you're intimidated by an approaching attacker, what that tells him is you don't want to be there.
Right.
It's that, I don't want to be here. So when you roll up, when you're willing to step up and say, look, I'm more than happy to be here and do whatever it takes. You will not hurt me. Well, that mental resolve, and this is all communicated mentally and subconsciously.
Right.
Consciously through the body language and verbal language, but subconsciously there's that prey and predator thing going on. It's the very same way, for example, in your work life. When you step forward, I'm more than willing to be here. I want to be here. This is where I want to be. I want to be in this ring. And I often tell people, I say, I don't step into the ring to see who's going to win. I step into the ring having already won. I have determined in my mind exactly what I'm going to do. I know exactly the outcome I want and exactly what I'm going to. I step in there predetermined to win. And so I go in there with absolutely no doubt. I step into the ring to show the other guy that I've already won. And with that kind of confidence and in your daily life, then you have what I call the alpha principle. Earlier you talked about how a cop or a soldier, they're out on patrol, they're more prepared. In a way, they're not being surprised. They're out looking for the problem to solve.
Correct.
In other words, they're on attack mode. I won't call it, I'm not saying go out and pick a fight with someone and physically attack them. I'm saying to aggress toward what you want, toward your goal. When you're in attack mode, you're not surprised. You're going forward. And that is the alpha principle in Mental Warfare Secrets, is that we go forward aggressively and confidently. Because if you're not doing that, you're actually sliding backwards.
Right.
And so in daily life, in the workplace and situations where, for example, if you have, a competitor at work who's constantly trying to put you down in front of the boss, and you emotionally react to that, and you feel upset by it, and he's used to that response from you, and so that just builds and builds. So what you do is you reverse it. You take a breath. Breath control is huge for emotional control. Breathing.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, in that moment when that thug passed me, I took a breath. I remember that, just taking a quick breath, and because the first thing we do in fight or flight is we tend to chest breathe. And if you've ever seen an infant in a crib sleeping, you notice their belly is rising, they're belly breathing. But as we get older and we learn to stretch and we get into the working world and we start to chest breathe, which is very shallow breathing. It's not, it's not empowering. It actually deflates you and you run out of breath very quickly. So breathing. So you breathe when you're faced with a situation and you don't emotionally respond. You do the opposite of what they're used to. And that transfers control where for a moment they begin to doubt. Well, why isn't he responding? I used to tell people this way, the pretty girl in the room, all the guys go buzz around the pretty girl. Ignore her. Walk in the room and ignore her. And she will come to you because you're like, why isn't he coming over here?
Right.
It's to give you an analogy.
Right. It's again, you're just breaking a pattern of expectance, and that is what, and that's what throws people off, especially because, again, leaving an emotionally disturbed person aside, general predators are also, going through. I mean, there's constantly, we're constantly sizing each other up, no matter who we are. And, there's every man on the planet, no matter where you are, at some point, as you're looking at it, you're like, can I kick this guy's ass? Right? I mean, we're wired like that. It's like, when a good looking woman walks by, I'm like, I'm going to look. That's just, that's the way we've been genetically, built. So, I would never do anything because my wife would kill me, but and I love her very much. So that's that. But there's things that are in us that we try to, that are instinctual, that we try to reason ourselves out of. What we do in self-defense and what we do in mental war, and what you're doing in mental warfare is literally taking what is genetically built in us and then putting it into some real, from practical applications for everyday life.
Yes, exactly. Right. That's exactly what we're doing, because we are all wired biologically a certain way, but most people live Pavlovian. They don't control that. If you control that, that's what separates us from animals. I mean, a firefly will go to a fire. A dog will salivate at food. They can't control that. We have the ability to choose our responses to a stimulus. That's what separates us from animals. Right. And so the more that we exercise that control, choosing our response to a stimulus rather than automatically responding, the more control we have and the more we can use that like a weapon in daily life, in the workplace, with your peers, whatever. And the more you do it, the funner it gets too. It's really a lot of fun.
Right.
I've had people tell me that the most amazing things that they've done with this.
That's great. There's a couple of things on here that, stick out. I mean, we're talking about, behavior, modifying their behavior based on your behavior. So, that was, where you're making, where you can hopefully shape what's going on, so when you're like, use the term hypnotic trance, if you will, to make people do, what you want without saying a word. Could you talk about that just a little bit? Because again, like I'm looking at this and, it's jumping out at me.
Mm-hmm. Sure. All right. Well, when you walk into a room or when you see someone and you pause before you respond to them, that alone, pause before response is a huge key. Most people automatically respond. Take a moment, take someone in with your eyes for just a moment before you respond to them if they're speaking to you, or before you speak to them. Just take them in with your eyes, look at them and pause, take a short breath, just relax and pause before you respond to them. That alone will slow them down and they'll follow you. I mean, I remember this in college. A buddy and I, we went into a theater one time, a theater before the movie, you know, before the preview. People are sitting there. And my buddy starts singing to them, and he says, "Come on, everybody, go into the next room. We're all going to go over in the next room, you know, because there were two rooms showing the same movies. Oh, come on, everyone, come on, we need to go." And a good majority of the people got up, and I thought, wow, people will just go along. They'll just go along with what you say. It's amazing. So if you're comfortable and you're calm and you pause before response and take people in and move deliberately, you know, you walk with intention and purpose, you'll find that people will follow you. And you see this in, you see it in politics. Obviously, they use emotion.
Right.
I mean, that's the easiest example of hypnotic trance.
I think as soon as people realize, you know, we all think of ourselves as logical people, but every decision we make is based on emotion.
Yes.
You know, and that's why, you know, when you can look at something and you're like, well, why didn't you do that? It's like, well, you know, you got to be in the moment and you got to understand it. So when you're doing this and understanding that, I mean, one thing I wanted to just add from, you know, in the interrogation side, it's the same if you ask a question and then just don't say anything after they give you the answer, you know, you'll get a lot more answer than you bargained for, because a lot of people feel compelled to continue to talk and provide you with detail that, you know, you normally, and it's like anyone in law enforcement knows this trick. You know, when you just keep your mouth shut, a lot of things, you know, you discover a lot of things.
Sure. They'll want to keep selling it. They'll want to keep selling their answer, their line of BS, you know, because you didn't respond that you believed it, that you accepted their answer. So they keep going. Yeah.
Now this home study course, it's you say 8 CDs and 2 DVDs.
It's 8 CDs and 2 DVDs. The DVDs, one of them is from a live combat seminar, and it's just an hour discussing the mental aspects of when you approach attack, or what to say, how to say it, body language. In the 8 CDs, you'll learn things like how to get a raise, what to say, how to say it, when to say it. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and give your listeners right now how to get a raise at work.
Okay, cool. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Well, first of all, deserve the raise.
Right. Yeah, right.
Because if you're doing a crappy job, you know, and you go and ask for a raise, you might not get it, but so deserve the raise. But here's what you do. You go in a moment of good rapport with your boss, the person in charge of giving you a raise, where things are comfortable, and you ask, you know, well, how am I doing? How's the job going? You know, how's my performance? And when you get a positive response, you say, well, you know, I really like working here. But I'm just not making enough. So I wanted to ask if you can give me a raise. Now, you can't see me right now because we're on the phone together, but the body language that I just gave, I put in a subtle threat there. I said, I really like working here, but I'm just not making enough.
Right.
That's implication that I may need to go elsewhere. So I wanted to ask if, and I paused, you can give me a raise. So what I did, that's an embedded command. I didn't say, can you give me a raise? I paused and said, you can give me a raise. And you can't see me right now physically, but I'm open. My arms aren't crossed. I'm nodding yes. You can give me a raise. And people will actually match and mirror your body language. So you can go in there, you match and mirror their body language, and you can hand them that. It's an embedded command. I wanted to ask if you can give me a raise. It's really a command. The pause is there. And so you're saying, you can give me a raise. Now, I've had people use that.
These are not the droids you're looking for.
What's that? Yeah, you give them the answer you're looking for.
They're not the droids you're looking for. That is a Jedi mind.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. I've had people use that to get a raise. I've had them use it to make the sale, to do amazing things with it. Even a guy who got cast in a movie that way. You give them the answer you're looking for, you embed the command, and there's even that subtle takeaway. You know, I love working here, but there's a slight implied, and this is all subconscious, and the guy hears it, you know, you've been doing a good job. It's all logical. At that point, it would be almost impossible to deny you. But the question is, it's always, when do you go for the kiss? You don't knock on her door. She opens the door and you go, kiss me.
Right. I mean, you've got to be in a position where you're gonna, listen. You don't ask a question that you don't know the answer to, So right, if you're doing well, if you're getting reviewed, you've got positive reviews. He's paying you compliments, and plus, when you're in there, when you ask somebody, people generally are not confrontational. So, you ask, hey, dude, hey, how am I doing? Am I doing okay? He's gonna say, "Sure, Scott, you're doing great." Like, okay, now that you brought that up,
So we've embedded that I'm doing great. So we've already, at the very beginning, we've qualified that I'm worthy of the raise because I'm doing so great.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And so there is so many different techniques like that in the course. And by the way, what we did this week, because you have the podcast this week, Damien, is we slashed the price. Normally the 8 CDs and 2 DVDs are $297. I told Steve to go on our website and just slash 2/3 off of it. So it's $97 for the whole friggin' home study course.
Wow. That's
it's at
that's
mental,
really generous.
It's at mentalwarfaresecrets.com is where the site is,
right,
where they can order. We just had them
slash. You guys, we'll have a link also available at the bottom of the podcast that you guys can go click and check it out. It's just a limited time, but again, it's Scott Bolan, Mental Warfare Secrets, and like I said, I've known Scott for a long time. He's been in this business an extremely long time, not to age any of us, but he knows his stuff. When you have a few, go check it out. Again, it's who doesn't, want to raise, who doesn't want to, take control of their life, if you will. Again, we know this is a byproduct of, what we want to do, right? I mean, when we're talking about, self-defense, we're really talking about control. We're talking about fear management. We're talking about, stepping into the unknown and handling it and preparing ourselves. And a lot of people don't think like this. And you know what? And one of the things I said, I think Tony Dungy said this, and he's like, success is uncommon, so it's not for the common man. There's not a lot of people don't think like this. A lot of people aren't here. A lot of people aren't looking, and a lot of people aren't really, most people live in denial. And again, we all use this term, the sheeple. They live in denial, and they rather not think about this, or they're looking for the easy way out, or they're, everyone's looking for a diet pill. Everyone thinks that if they just buy a firearm, that all their self-defense worries will be over. These are all tools, but at the end of the day, it's the person behind whatever it is you're doing. It's the person behind the technique.
That's right.
It's a person holding the firearm. It's a person holding the knife. It's a person, wielding the pepper spray. And this is what, and this is what we're talking about here. It's the attitude, it's that will, and it's, channeling, what your confidence and building that confidence. And sometimes, when you act as if I smile on the outside, I sometimes become happy on the inside. It's like you're creating this behavior, and your body, your body and your mind are connected. So when your body does something, your mind typically starts to feel those emotions. Think about it.
You smile, yes.
Right? You smile. It's like, hey, okay, I'm happier. I don't know why. I'm just smiling like a mental patient, but hell, I'm a little happier. So,
and your attacker, the thug approaches you on the street, and you're beaming this big smile like you're so happy and he's like, he has a WTF moment.
Yeah, right. What the hell is wrong with this guy? Next. And that's all it takes, right? It's a split second.
Yes.
These guys are this, right? Telling people, when they sit about, it's like, one of the things is like, again, this is, before we wrap it up, and just a side note, it's like, people think about, and I try to get this into people's head so much. They think about just the physicality of self-defense. They think about the techniques. They think about the fight. But, and we, with the training system, with our program, we talk about the mental aspects. So, when I got somebody who's 74 years old, it's like, well, what can I do for self-defense? I'm like, well, a lot. one is just not to be an easy target. And we're going to, this is part of how you do that. I'm like, you don't, it's not, don't think about it. You're not getting in the ring with anybody. So don't think about it don't think of the fight. I mean, the majority of people in our business just focus on the fight. And, that is, even it's important. Sure. We use techniques, we train, right. It gives us the confidence, but there's so much tactically, and this is what it is, tactical. And this is what happens well before the fight. Don't even have to, chances are, again, you're not going to be throwing a punch. You're not going to be hit. It's just enough for that person to say, you know what? Maybe not. Again, dealing with, a bully or a blowhard in a bar, whatever. I mean, again, it's actually, no one ever got into a fight thinking they're going to get their ass kicked, right? I mean, no one ever looked at, see Scott walking, you know what? I'm going to go let that guy fuck me up, excuse my language, and no one does that, right? They're always thinking they want an easy fight. They want the path of least resistance. And what you're saying is you're not getting a path of least resistance. And, once you start, and even with the, looking at, the whole, how to get a raise, I think it's incredibly interesting because what you're doing is also you're setting, you're setting the table, and you're, putting them in a position where the right way out is to give you what you want. The only thing I would say to that is, have a reasonable number in mind that you're going to ask for. So start about 10 or 15% higher and go from there, right? So
yeah, definitely. Awesome.
So again, I want to thank Scott for coming on, and again, it's Mental Warfare Secrets. We're going to provide you with a link. This is Damian Ross, and you're listening to the Kill or Be Killed podcast. And until next time, train honestly.